Value your art more than you value your insecurities. A massive truth bomb delivered by the one and only Kyle Lipton. Join me and Kyle for an enlightening conversation on labelless leadership. In this episode, you'll learn how to break through the box parameters of leadership so you can step into being a fully expressed leader. You'll learn how to create true alignment and abundance in your leadership, the truth behind your anxiety and how to move through it, and tips to help you step into labelless leadership. Kyle Lipton is an entrepreneur, a multi-expressive artist who infuses love into everything he does. Kyle has experienced everything from living in homeless shelters to speaking on stages. He's created comedy videos that have reached thousands and thousands of people. He's done plant medicine on national TV and so much more. Kyle believes that full self-expression is the key to awakening. Today's episode is sponsored by How to Conquer Your Bullshit with CPR. This is my free training that's going to help you, the leader, bring your message to the masses. Sign up for the free training at rubyfremon.com/CPR. Now, whether you're new to this podcast or you're a loyal thought leader, please make sure you take a moment to download a few episodes and drop a rating and review on iTunes. And if you do this, take a screenshot, send it over to me so I can thank you and send you virtual hugs. Now it is time to remove the labels around leadership with Kyle Lipton. Hey, thought leaders, I am back with another very, very special guest, someone who I have always seen as one of the emerging and incredible leaders of the millennial space, someone that I have a deep amount of respect for the way in which he shows up, because as I've been witnessing him online, I've just seen him step into further and further alignment with himself. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce to you Kyle Lipton. Kyle, welcome to today's Thought Leader. Super excited to have you here.
I'm excited to be here. I'm excited for our chat.
Me too. One of the things that I think is so incredible about us is I don't remember how we actually first met.
That's always the best part.
Right? I feel like we were online friends for a long time. And then was my event the first time we met in real life, or did we meet in real life before that?
It might have been the first time. Yeah, okay. It is a good question.
So, well, with that being said, then I think Kyle and I first met in real life this year. And your presence in real life is exactly who you are in the online world. And that's something that I respect so much when I meet people and they're the same as they are online, because that shows an absolute congruency with who you are. And it also shows like this deep knowing, inner knowing, like you know who you are and you're not afraid to put that out there.
I hope so.
Well, one of the things that Kyle and I wanted to talk about with you today was leadership and the idea of labelless leadership, which is Kyle's idea. And I would love for you, Kyle, to just drop in and explain to us what labelless leadership means.
To me, it means pure art, not being confined by a particular identity structure. And what I mean by that is we have so much noise in the world, whether it's online or in social media, people telling you who you need to be, how you need to show up, what you need to post, what you need to share on stage. And I think, Picasso wasn't sweating about who's his niche market. Picasso was just like, I want to paint, I want to share, I want to express myself. And I think it's always best to be yourself and then find a lane from that space. Be yourself as fully as possible. Share your art as fully as possible, and don't let yourself be confined by a particular label. And one of my predictions that I predicted in the coaching industry, and I still stand very true to this, is I see so many people. The wave that I see is people are going to realize 5 years from now, like, oh, I actually really wanted to be a speaker, or I actually really wanted to sing and I never sang because I felt like I couldn't show up this way, or I felt like I couldn't paint, or I felt like this because I was this person. And then, 5 years later, 10 years later, it's like, that's all that time that you never really got to express yourself or your gifts or these other facets of yourself because you said, I'm not an artist, or because you said, I'm not able to do this because it'll interfere with how I'm supposed to show up online.
Mm,
Which, if any part of you is held back with how you're supposed to show up online, then you're not showing up authentically. You're not really giving the world what they need, which is you.
right.
So yeah, that would be how I would define labelless leadership.
I love that. Because it's true. Like when you look around the online space, it feels like everyone is just trying to conform to fit this quote unquote box
Mm-hmm.
that I don't even know who the fuck created this box, first of all, the parameters of this box and who we should be and how we should show up.
Yeah.
And, there's been times, like I'll admit, where I have done that to myself.
Same
Um,
here.
and it can be super subtle, right? Like sometimes we don't
100%.
even realize we're doing it until we're in it. And then you're
You're
like,
like,
wait, I don't feel good.
yeah,
Like this doesn't feel like me. But I think it's so easy to say, just be you, like
100%.
express yourself. It's so much harder to actually step into that.
Yeah.
So what has that journey been like for you?
Um, I'd love to say it was just a process. Where it's just 1, 2, 3. It's just been a continuous unraveling and a devotion to my fullest expression, and that's meant to me moving in directions that synchronicity will kind of getting like divine hints of where I'm supposed to go, whether someone keeps telling me something, or like people be like, oh, your comedy videos are really funny, you should keep doing them. And then just continuing to move in the direction. A really good question one of my friends asked me was, move in which direction carries the most synchronicity, right?
Mm,
So feeling into like, where's my highest excitement? Like, what direction could I go that would excite me? Let go, even if you have to give yourself permission. Maybe you set an alarm for an hour and you say, for this next hour, I'm going to give myself permission to follow my highest excitement. Then
mhm,
afterwards, if I want, I can, go back to putting myself in a box. It's cool.
mhm. Yeah.
And letting yourself just go there. And maybe that's painting, and not limiting yourself in any way of what you want to do. And if it's
Right.
something totally not you, do it and just see. I think all the areas that we repress, what did I say recently? It's like all the areas that we repress, when we peel back those layers where we've
Mhm,
repressed, it's just more art. It's more art to be
mhm.
shared. It's more art to be expressed. And um, to me, I'm so curious and excited of what that art inside me is going to look like, that
Mhm.
it's so much stronger than any sort of wanting to play safe, or um, and it's funny because it's actually not safe when you really think about it,
Right.
because your safety is actually the thing that creates disease, because you're not
Yeah.
expressing yourself. So I would say just give yourself permission, and even, set alarm clocks, or give yourself time to just drop in, let go of that you've known, and just see what you want to explore, and, let yourself be a kid and play.
Yeah. And again, right, this can be so much easier said than done. I think it's easy for us to say, get curious, set the alarm, follow your heart, do what feels good, do what feels exciting. Um, and it can be harder to do, especially for those who have never really given themselves an opportunity to do that before, or have never even had the opportunity to do that before, right? Like due to their upbringing, or due to their circumstances, or due to just society and the culture that they've grown up with, they've never really experienced what it's like to be who they are.
Right.
And so they might not even know what feels exciting to me, because they haven't ever allowed themselves the space to find that. And now here they are stepping into the role of the leader, wanting to show up in a bigger way for themselves and for humanity. And yet they have yet to have ever experienced showing up in that way for themselves. You
Yeah.
know what I
And
mean?
I think it's like, if I'm so used to being, let's say, numb, then how
Right.
do I know it's exciting? I would say, if you can't get in touch with your excitement right away, follow what feels relieving.
Mm,
right? Follow something that feels relieving, so then you can get into a space of more neutrality. Because if you
yeah,
follow what's relieving, then you can be more of a conduit, let's say, for excitement. So
right.
maybe that's get a massage, or maybe that's just disconnect for a bit.
Yeah,
Then you can reconnect to who you are. And then from that space, it'll be a lot easier to feel and be attuned to those sensations of excitement.
yeah. Yeah, because it's like what you said at the beginning, right? The world needs us to be us.
Yeah.
And we need to be able to express our purpose and our truth, what we believe to be our purpose or our vision or our mission in our own way. And if we're constantly trying to just fit the confinements of a box,
Mhm.
or what we think we should be doing, or what we think we need to do in order to achieve XYZ, or in order to be seen as a leader,
Mm. Mm.
then we're not actually fully expressing our gifts. And that's why I love how you continue to say, like, the fullest expression, because
Yeah.
there's like like my shoulders drop when I say that fullest expression. Like there is
Yeah.
some energy of freedom that comes from that term of like being fully expressed in who you are. And for me, it's a constant refinement. Like every day I am dropping deeper into my fullest expression. Like I
Mm.
don't believe I'm there yet, and I don't even know if there's an
Like
end goal in
yeah.
mind,
Yeah.
right? Like when am I in my fullest expression? Because I feel like my expression is constantly evolving.
Yeah.
So when, for you, like I know you've been going through your own shifts and changes in your role and how you want to deliver your purpose and how you want to show up. So do you feel like you're in, like right now, your fullest, like absolute fullest expression?
I feel like if I was in my fullest expression, I mean, maybe, I don't know. I don't know if that'd be possible. Maybe I'd be like ascended and like floating. I don't know. But I feel very expressed, and I feel willing to just really express, which I think is most important. It's like having that willingness to say what you want to say. And I totally agree, though. I think it can be so hard when you're in the confines of uh, like a certain industry, like let's say life coaching or
Right.
coaching, where it's like, yeah, my fullest expression, but it's almost like this weird, because I felt this before, maybe you have too, where it's like, yeah, I'm expressing myself fully because I'm saying like show up, and I'm doing all of the things that they say we're supposed to do.
Mm-hmm.
Something still feels off. And then you don't really maybe notice it until you give yourself bigger permission, and you're like, whoa, this is way different than the level of freedom I was feeling in this box.
Right.
You could be free in a box, and it, it's like being a goldfish. You're a goldfish in this little bowl, and you're like, this is legit. Like I can swim in it. I'm
Mm-hmm.
moving, I'm grooving. And then someone puts you in the ocean, and you're like, whoa, I can
Right.
just keep going.
Yeah.
And then you get to experience that new level of freedom.
Yeah, that's a really good visual, actually, because I think a lot of people are actually goldfish right now. Like they think they're
Mic
free.
drop.
They think they're free. They think that they're being fully expressed, and yet they're still holding back in some way. And again, maybe it's because they've never experienced it before. Maybe it's because they still have these limitations that they're fighting for harder than they're fighting for their freedom.
Yeah.
Um, and I think that that's one of the keys, right? Is we have to learn how to, or gain the desire to want to fight harder for
Yeah.
our freedom versus fighting for our limitations, which is where a lot of people um, are stuck.
Yeah. Yeah. I heard something great. It's like if you fight for your limitations, you get to keep them.
Mm-hmm.
And we try so hard to like convince other people sometimes that we should be keeping our limitations.
Right.
And I think it goes back to this whole notion of I don't want to be bad, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
I create this whole personality construct based on religion or conditioning or whatever it is. Like
Right.
I'm going to be this person so that I don't be bad
Right.
and be punished, whatever that means. And
Right.
I, I think unconsciously a lot of people do that. And I think one of the bigger permission slips is just giving yourself permission to fuck up, or whatever
Mm-hmm.
you believe is fuck up. Like make
Yeah.
mistakes, make there be no wrong decision.
Right.
And uh, and just see what happens, you know? And I think it'll be super scary and it'll freak you the fuck out. And then at a certain point, there's a good quote by Terrence McKenna, and he says, I jumped into the abyss and I realized it was a bed of feathers.
Mm.
And I think that's one of the things that I think so many people, I've experienced this, maybe you have too,
Yeah.
where it is like that, where you're like, oh, it's actually super safe to leave my comfort zone.
Yeah. I think because when you're in your comfort zone for so long, when you're showing up, for example, in a certain way online, let's
Yeah.
use this as an example, you are used to how your audience is going to perceive you or react. Like you get used to, conditioned, in regards to how people are going to react to you. And then maybe you become addicted to that reaction. Maybe, if I show up in this way, I'm going to get more likes. Or if I show up in this way, I'm going to get more views or more comments or more engagement, or people are going to perceive me, whatever it is. But if I show up in this way, like, ooh, if I talk about like my psychic abilities, or if I talk about my artwork, if I talk about how much I love to sing, or if I talk about these things that are actually really me, then I don't know. I don't know how my audience is going to react. I don't know if they're still going to quote unquote like me. I don't know if they're going to still quote unquote follow me or perceive me as a leader. And that's why people don't step into that and they remain in their comfort zone. But man, there is like, it's not just your impact that you're restricting when you do that. It's also this feeling of being fully expressed, this feeling of freedom that you're restricting by doing that.
Yeah. And I think too, it's like life's going to catch up to you anyways. Like maybe I'll reincarnate as a cactus in the next lifetime and have to learn the same lesson. Well, I can't like move,
Right?
stuck in the sand. So it's like, hear the whispers before you hear the screams, that little nudge that's like, or if you're listening to this podcast, maybe this is a whisper,
right?
Do that thing, express yourself. And I think I'll go extreme and then I'll make it very tactical. I think one, it's like, be willing to like, fuck your audience. Be willing to say fuck you to your audience.
Correction.
Pause. Yes. Because if Picasso was so focused on what are they going to perceive of my artwork, or if Da Vinci was so focused on what are they going to perceive of this, or if Michael Jackson was like, am I in my niche right now, then they wouldn't be able to share their art. And it's like having the willingness to say fuck anyone who doesn't subscribe to who I'm being right now. This is me. Unfollow, unsubscribe. That place is going to get filled with someone who really fucks with my stuff way more than, it's just the willingness. And I think seeing it more as, what helps me a lot is I really see stuff as an illusion. It's like, okay, cool. This person's going to freak out because they're reflecting back my own unconscious mind that's in opposition to myself. So I realized that all I got to do is change the mirror. Yeah, maybe there'll be some drama and then I'll flip it. And it's almost just that knowing that it's all good and it is just all a reflection of me that makes it less scary, because I'm like, this person literally is just reflecting me. All I have to do is change the mirror. Maybe there'll be a little turmoil for a bit and then, it'll be shifted. So yeah. And on a small scale, just start small if you want, make a little 5-minute singing video and don't post it, or, write poetry on your page. I remember I started writing poetry on my page, which was just like, I'd be up at like 2 a.m. and a whole poem would come in and take me like 3 minutes and it'd be super dope and I'd love it. And I would just post it just because I'm like, this is dope. I love this.
Yeah.
And I wasn't thinking, how can I get more likes or follows? Maybe that came into my mind, but the purpose was just art. And you'd be surprised to see how this can also affect your business. Like when I did my comedy videos, which are kind of makes fun of the coaching industry in some of them, I actually got the most I got people interested in business. I got people following me. I got people, hey, I really like your stuff. Or so it's unsurprising, but alignment is always going to be your best place for abundance, because you're sharing the abundance of who you are.
Yeah. And if you haven't seen Kyle's comedy videos, please go check them out because they are hilarious as fuck.
Those 2 subscribers strong.
Yeah. And I love that you said alignment creates abundance. It, because it does, but more than what might come to the front of mind. Like, it's not just monetary abundance. This is like abundance of living, abundance of feeling, abundance
Yeah.
of joy,
Yeah.
abundance of freedom. Like, when you are truly aligned, and if you don't know what that alignment is, it's kind of like, I always say, if you have a puzzle, and you're not sure if a piece is going to fit, like, the only way you're going to know is if you take that piece and try and put it in. And if
Yeah.
it doesn't fit, cool, remove it. Like,
Yep.
that's what alignment is all about. If you don't know what actually is going to feel aligned, then just test it out. And some of my, I love that you said record a video of you singing, because some of my favorite things that I've seen people who I follow share online is when they share these unexpected little parts of them that
Yeah.
perhaps they haven't shared before. Like, here's a piece of my art. It's like,
Hmm.
whoa, shit, you paint? Like, I didn't know that. That's so cool.
Yeah.
Or like, I remember one of the poems that you posted and I was like, shit, man, Kyle is deep. Like, this is dope. And
Oh,
then
thanks.
spoken word. And I was like, okay, Kyle's just taking it to this other level now. But it's like you're revealing these different parts of you.
Hmm.
And in showing that to your audience, I feel that, number one, it's going to remove the ones who are not actually meant to be there, like the ones who are not actually aligned with you.
Facts. 100%.
And number two, it's going to bring more of the aligned audience in. And then number three, it's going to make your audience love you even more because you're stepping into your truth, which to me is how a leader needs to show up, because a leader leads by being. A leader leads by stepping into what it is that they're stepping into first, so that they can be the example. And
Mm.
if you're too afraid to step into who you are, to own all parts of you, then what the fuck are you teaching your audience?
Mm. Yeah. And it's like, having compassion on the way, because,
Yeah.
I'm going to, keep growing my audience and the people that follow me as I evolve. So
Mhm.
it's like letting yourself, you don't have to be a finished product, and you're on the path, which is
Yeah.
awesome. And when you fall off the path, have compassion. Maybe it's a week, maybe
Right.
it's a month, but then you'll just get back on it.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. That brings up, like, we put so much pressure on ourselves, right?
Yeah.
When we are perceived as leaders, or doing our work to show up as leaders, to lead our missions, to lead our purpose, to lead our visions, we put so much pressure in ourselves to do it, quote unquote, right, or to do it a certain way, or
Mhm.
to not fail.
Yeah.
And that removes the desire to want to take risks. But it's through risks that we find out who we truly are, what we're truly
Mm.
capable of doing, and who we're capable of being. Like,
Yeah.
Kyle, I don't think you would be where you're at today with the changes that you're starting to make, and stepping more into your the artist within you, if you weren't willing to take those risks and or, like you said earlier, get curious.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just listening.
Yeah. And it's that curiosity. In fact, let's swap out risks for curiosity instead. I like that better. Let's
All
swap
right.
that
Let's swap
out.
that.
Let's swap that.
We're
because
swapped.
because it's really just about getting curious, right?
Yeah.
Like, you could position it as, yeah, I'm going to take this risk and
Mm.
post this video of me doing spoken word,
Mm.
or I'm going to get curious about who I'm capable of being and how I'm capable of showing up, and share this intimate part of me.
Mm.
Um, and it's through that curiosity that we dive deeper into our inner knowing and who we truly are, which, again, like, I feel only benefits the greater good.
Mm. Yeah. It's about valuing your art more than your insecurities.
Fuck yes.
Yeah.
One more time for the people in the back. Valuing your art
Mhm.
more than you value your insecurities.
Yes. Valuing your art more than you value your insecurities. Their subconscious minds are like hearing it now. Um, yeah. And to me, there's been such a progressive going, like Will Smith talks about, like, I attack my fear. And I've
Mm,
done a lot of just, oh shit, I'm afraid. Oh shit, I'm afraid. Oh
yeah.
shit, I'm afraid. Do it. Do it. Raise your hand.
Mhm.
Like, go up. And it can be such a thrill, because you're like, oh, I'm revealing more of me right now.
Mhm.
Holy shit. And it's like what you said, you don't really know what you're made of until you take a curious step.
Mm. Yes.
Or like swap that out in real
Swap that out.
time.
Yeah. Swap it out in real time. There's no risk. It's just curiosity. Yeah. Um, and I love that about fear. People ask me, like, don't you ever feel fear? And I'm like, I feel fear every single fucking day.
Yeah.
I just choose to lean into it because I know, because I've cultivated this pattern of knowing that every time I step into my fear, I learn something about myself. It may not, pay off in the way I want it to pay off, but I will learn something about myself. And I think that that's so much more important than trying to conform inside a box or stay inside my comfort zone. Like
Agreed.
I'm on this journey of life. I'm living on this planet to learn more about who I am, because then and only then can I help really move the collective consciousness forward. We're not going to move the collective consciousness forward. We're not going to lead our missions if we're all just trying to do the same shit and show up in the same way.
100%. Yeah. And fear is really just excitement flipped.
Yes.
It's that same energy. And where this is just in my ponderings and downloads, it's like anxiety is withholding that, right? Because fear is like, I don't know if podcast listeners can see it, but I'm moving my hands really fast and kind of like frenetically. And fear is that type of energy, and it wants to move. Like creativity, expression wants to move.
Yeah.
And what can happen is we house it. We say, no, I can't express that. So then that shaking happens inside of our physical body, which makes us anxious because it's all this energy that wants to move through us. Like someone with ADD or ADHD, there's someone who expresses a lot and wants to share a lot, and then they get like numbed down with medications and things, and then they have to withhold it and house like so much energy.
Right.
So it's like, yeah, if you experience anxiety, yes, meditate, and also just give yourself permission to be who you want to be and paint and share and like give yourself time. And I think you'll be surprised at what can come of it.
I love that. I love that. Because we do hear so much about that. And especially like all the clients that I work with are people who see themselves as thought leaders and leaders who have purposes, and 99.99999% of them have dealt with anxiety or deal with it. And I 1,000% agree with what you just shared, right? Because so much of that comes from not feeling free to express ourselves, which really is not allowing ourselves to express ourselves in the way in which we want to express ourselves, because we're too wrapped up in how we think we need to do things, or who we think we need to be. And I say this because I too have experienced this. And I'm not, and I still experience it to this day, but now my shift in real life shift time is a lot faster because I can recognize when it comes up and why it's coming up.
100%.
But it's such a great thing to lean into, is just like Kyle shared, like when you feel that frenetic energy and it shifts into this anxiety, to really ask yourself, perhaps like, what am I not expressing?
What am I withholding? Exactly.
Yeah. What am I withholding? Like, what a great visualization also to give yourself is when you feel that frenetic energy, like visualize it in your body and what needs to happen for it to come out. Right.
Yeah.
And for you, I know like for you right now, it's expressing more of your art. It's expressing more of your creativity, and these are your gifts, right? Like your videos are funny and they hold potent truth.
Yeah.
Like, I remember the first video I watched of yours was the one where you make fun of the coaching industry.
Yeah, there's many of those.
Right. But it was funny as fuck. And there was actually like some really strong underlying potent messages in that could have only been conveyed the way it was conveyed because you were willing to do so in your own artistic creativity. Like by you making it funny and bringing some humor into it and bringing some lightness into it, it helps it sink in on a different level, and helps it land, which, and I share this because I want everyone to feel like they can express their truth their way, like it's kind of like, how you see people say fuck, but they're not really people who say fuck.
Maybe
And
they
they're
just
just
want to be
saying,
polarizing.
right. And they're just saying it because oh, it works for this person, but it's not you. Like it's
Right.
not
100%.
you. It doesn't, it's not going to land on your audience, nor is it going to actually feel good or feel aligned with you. Because I'm sure that doing those videos feels really good for you.
Super good. I mean, I'm basically just recording what I would do anyways, like with my friends. So
Right.
why not share the love?
Yeah. Yeah. And what a great way to put it too. I'm basically just recording what I would do with my friends. Perfect. Like everyone show up in the way that you would show up with your best friends. Why
Yeah.
are we showing up differently online? Because we need to be perceived as a quote unquote leader.
Yeah. Well, one of my friends, Brandon Hawk, shout out to you. He says something, what was it? What comes easiest to you should demand the most value.
Mm,
I'm
yeah.
like that's a shoulder drop. I don't
Yeah.
have to do some crazy, you know, VIP day where we go skydiving and then eat a 5-star meal. And
Right.
I mean, you could do that if that's I mean, I would definitely that sounds like a lot of fun. And it's just, you know, do whatever comes easiest should demand the most value. Like that's your zone of genius. Live in that zone of genius. I think what would be a good practice for people in the coaching industry, like there can be kind of a narrow focus of like what people share, because it's people, you know, they say, you know, evolve. I think balancing that, like the people you follow with like people who really inspire you too, that maybe are in a different genre, like studying like Picasso or studying like someone huge in pop culture or like a big artist that you're into, and just see how they involve creativity and become a disruptor in your industry by taking and just getting inspired by some people that are disrupting their industry.
Right.
And like taking that energy, because it can be really easy to get wrapped up in a bubble and lose your sense of creativity.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a really great suggestion, is to follow people outside of your industry. And when you said the word disruptor, because we hear this a lot, you know, be disruptive, be a disruptor. If you look at all the people that are truly like disrupting their industries, what they're actually essentially doing is they're just expressing their fullest truth.
That's it. Yeah. Which is
And that's the
disruptive in a
disruption.
world of people that don't do that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Kyle, we are at the end of this episode. Do you have any final thoughts for our listeners?
Yes. Be yourself and just express all of you. I think one of the biggest areas that I wanted to mention this before is sexuality is a big taboo. Like explore all facets of yourself and don't let any stone go unturned. That's an actual saying. And I love you all. This was a lot of fun.
We love you too, Kyle. Thank you so much for just being here, for showing up, for expressing your truth. I know that our audience is going to get a lot of insights from this episode. I really, really have a strong feeling. Why don't you tell our audience how they can stalk you online? Because I know they're going to want more of you.
Well, I'll give you my address. So if you want to stalk me in person, I'm kidding. You can follow me on Facebook. It's Kyle Lipton. And then on Instagram, it's Kyle_Lipton. And my YouTube channel is Kyle Lipton, which I'm at 42 subscribers strong last time I checked. So
we'll get you up there.
Make it up to 45 after this podcast launches.
Well, I'm going to have all those links and more in the show notes. Thank you, Kyle, for being here. And to our listeners, thank you so much for joining me and Kyle on today's Thought Leader, where we are challenging you to rise up, speak up, and create a movement. If you dig this episode, please share it with a friend. If you have any questions for me and Kyle, just reach out to us on social media. Let us know that you heard this episode. Let us know what your greatest insight was, and feel free to ask your questions. And of course, I'm going to ask you to drop a rating and a review on iTunes and download a few more episodes if you dig this. And that's it. That's all. I'll see you back here on Thursday for a brand new episode of today's Thought Leader.